Good afternoon, friends. Welcome to the STP training webinar. What is Agile testing anyway? Our speaker for the day is Pradeepa Narayanaswamy. I'm Smita Mishra, a professional tester myself, and I'm excited to host you all and Pradeepa on our STP trainings. Incidentally, she has also been a speaker with us at our past STPCon conferences. How was your experience, Pradeepa, for the past few STPCons that you have attended? Anything specific that you liked there?
Hi, Smita, and hi, everybody. I'm I'm excited to be here, and I'm excited to be talking to all of you about Agile testing today. Yes, Smita, I have attended two of the STP cons in last 2 years, actually. One of them in Dallas and the second one in Phoenix this year. It's an amazing conference, like really amazing conference. The reason why I'm saying that is I have been to other testing conferences, but in this conference, I saw a lot of people who attended just because they really wanted to get their craft in testing to the next level. They are genuinely interested. They were here just because they wanted to learn and grow, not because their company or their manager wanted to attend. So that is sometimes rare these days, but I met a lot of attendees like that at the STPCon. So that's pretty exciting.
Wow, very nice. So for all our listeners today, let me tell you we have our next conference coming up, Fall 2017 STPCon, to be held in the Washington, D.C. area from September 25th through 29th this year. And as you can see on the screen, we have various courses and certifications through these dates. There are workshops through September 26th and 27th, and then there are conference and sessions through 28th and 29th of September. This year, the conference topics include automation, agile, performance, DevOps, mobile, security, leadership, strategy, and much more. A lot of it for you to choose from. So typically, we have over 16 workshops and 40 sessions for you to choose from, and the formats are like case studies and hands-on exercises and tool demos. The complete program is published for you to explore at stpcon.com, and if you register by 26th of August, you get to save up to $400 off your registration. So quickly, Pradeepa, I wanted to check with you. Did you get a chance to look at the conference program of the upcoming conference, and any selections that you have made so far on what sessions and workshops you're looking forward to?
Yes, I did look at the program, and it's it's an awesome program that that we have for this year. 3 or 4 things that caught to my eyes, especially since I'm coming from the Agile background anyways, and I really like Bob Galen and his presentations. I'm super excited about in hearing what Bob has to say about Agile testing. Specifically, he's going to talk about how testers can work pretty closely with the product owners. That's a very interesting session I believe a lot of people can benefit from. And Paul Grizzeffi, he is from Dallas like I am, and he's one of my very good friend, and it's super excited to see that he is doing the keynote. So if any of you are attending the conference, do not miss him. He's an amazing speaker with a ton of energy, and you will absolutely love it. So that's something that's pretty exciting. And I'm also this one caught my attention. Paul Merrill is talking about storytelling and connecting it to automation. So I'm very curious about that topic. So those are all the things that really caught my attention this year, Smita.
Very nice. Looks like you've actually gone through it and made your selections. Good. So as a tester myself, I have found conferring to be one of the best ways to learn and also to get to know reputed testers across the globe, mostly to build networks and connections that can help you learn and you can learn from them. So I hope you all find it to be the same way and make learning a more fun experience. If you're on Twitter, please share the conference information and about this webinar with your followers and connections. We love the shout-outs, so if you hear something you like during the webinar, please tweet about it and use @SoftwareTestPro for a retweet from us. Another quick piece of information before we get started with the webinar. is that there is an upcoming webinar, The Hidden Requirements, Exploring Emotions with Place Bobs. So that's by Damien Synagnos on 28th of July. The link is up for you to review and register. Damien happens to be a renowned speaker and again has spoken at STP multiple times. He's a very popular speaker amongst various testing forums, and he's a hands-on practitioner as well. I mean, he teaches testing as well as performs testing, and he normally talks about ways to improve processes. So he's known to engage heavily with his audience, and he's also an improv comedy performer. So you may probably enjoy that part too. So please, I hope you go for it. Look at the webinar and review it. All right, so let's get started with the webinar today. Very warm welcome, Pradeepa, formally. So we are thrilled to have you with us today. And let me quickly introduce you for all of us who are here. As a life coach and agile coach, Pradeepa is a self-proclaimed agile passionista who strongly believes in agile values and principles to help organizations delight their customers. Pradeepa helps teams and leaders in understanding and aligning with their organizational vision and supports in their transformational journey. She is passionate about and specializes in agile testing. She speaks in various national and international conferences. Pradeepa is a heart hug that brings warmth and comfort amongst the chaos. And through her life coaching services, she's dedicated to serving successful professionals, especially women who want more in life. So check her out at www.lives-transformed.com. And there is so much more. I could keep talking about her vast experience and extensive leadership on Agile and being a life coach, but I'll let her do the rest of the talking. And right before we start, last few housekeeping points for next 1 hour. All the attendees shall remain muted through the webinar. You can type in your questions and share them with us through your question or chat box, whichever appears on your version of GoToWebinar. We shall take them up after Pradeepa is done with her presentation. The webinar shall be recorded and posted on the SoftwareTestPro site for the attendees to go through later. So focus on learning and asking questions and enjoy that. All right, Pradeepa, very warm welcome again, and the floor is all yours now.
Thank you, Smita. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening from wherever you are joining. I'm super excited to be talking about one of the passionate topic of mine and passionate subject of mine, Agile testing. Like Smita mentioned, here are my information. My Twitter feed is out here and my website, lives-transform.com. So let me do a quick introduction about me. From the professional side, over 17 plus years of experience in the IT industry, did variety of roles, started as a Java developer, web designer, then moved into testing, a lot of testing in the Agile side, quite a bit of that experience. Then I slowly got into, working as a Scrum Master, and then eventually became an Agile coach. And now I'm an enterprise Agile coach with Cox Auto. Agile passionista, so that's something that I'm really passionate about. Like Smita mentioned, I'm also life coach, and I have my own company, Possibilities Lives Transformed. Just to add on to my professional credential, I'm also a professional Scrum trainer with scrum.org, so one of the two certifying bodies of Scrum in the entire world. On the personal side, a little bit about me. I am an avid soap collector. I love traveling to new destinations, and wherever I go, I personally collect locally made soaps from that specific destination. I am for our American, I know for our folks from the northern part, from the Americas, you will know when I say I'm a big cheesehead. So I'm a big Green Bay Packers fan, one of the National Football League teams. And I'm also a foodie. I'm a vegetarian. So wherever I travel to, I like to explore new food items, especially when they're vegetarian in different cuisines. So a little bit about me on that. This is the agenda for today. I'm going to be talking a little bit about Agile testing. Definitely going to hit on the goals for Agile testing and the mindset aspect of it. I'm also going to talk a little bit about how a tester can contribute in different events and artifacts. Very lightly, I will touch on defect management, metrics, and documentation. These are some topics that are very, testers especially are very interested in these topics quite a bit. Okay? All right. So what is Agile testing? In my perspective, Agile testing is asynchronous, meaning the dependency of completing the code and then testing is not needed. For example, a telephone conversation is asynchronous because both parties can talk whenever they like. So bringing it back to our software world, testing needs to be done in parallel to development. And without the collaboration between various team members in your Agile team, that's definitely not possible. So how would you do that? How can you test in parallel? Testing needs to be done in an incremental fashion. Every day, right from day one, little by little, in parallel. The reason is when you start in parallel and giving feedback, you're actually giving guidance and feedback on the development on a regular basis, on a daily basis. That way, you're building quality and baking quality right from the beginning and all along. I consider testing as a design activity. You're constantly designing the application with a variety of tests. Requirements are going to evolve. Tests are going to evolve. Code is going to evolve. Creativity in each of this circle, the requirement, the test, and code, will and should challenge each other domain. A good test should not be afraid to challenge the way the code is written or the requirement is written. I will repeat that again. A good test should not be afraid to challenge the way the code is written or the requirement is written. Designing good tests at the appropriate level will ensure the quality of the product. To foster this behavior, your management should trust the teams. Do not measure the team members' performance by how many number of test cases have you written, how many number of bugs have you found, lines of code you have developed, how much design, so on and so forth. The team's success should be measured by the potentially shippable high-quality product. The team's success should be measured by their ability to produce high-quality, potentially shippable product. So this diagram captures the essence of Agile testing. I'll walk this diagram through with you. So if you look at the left-hand side, the box, understanding the user story. So this is just a simplified version of a team. I'm just representing two people, but think about it in a parabolic version, with other team members, right? So just for the simplicity here. So at the beginning, both the coding specialist and the testing specialist are coming together in a collaborative fashion and trying to understand the work, and trying to understand the requirement or the user story, or however you wanted to call it. And the next box, which is down below, That's my favorite box. So after understanding the work, instead of these specialists going on their own and building the code and test, they both are trying to understand their mutual domain. Meaning, as a coding specialist, they're trying to understand how are we going to test this? And as a testing specialist, they're trying to understand how are we going to code this? So that mutual understanding, that early in the process, is crucial and key for baking the quality of the product. And after understanding the mutual domains, and of course, a coding specialist will have the emphasis on writing code, and the testing specialist will have the emphasis on writing and executing tests. But again, I want to stress the point, and if you look at each and every box, they are together. They are always working together in a collaborative fashion. There is a lot of communication going back and forth. And when it comes to testing, again, they're collaborating and doing it together and getting that feedback and getting that early feedback, which is actually going to guide the development. And one thing that I wanted to point out in this diagram is, if you see, there is a double-sided arrow that goes from any box to any other box. What does that mean? That means even, let's say, when you've understood your requirements, you understood the mutual domain, and you started writing code and test, and even when you're in the last box, which is, now you're actually testing the development, if you find something, you should not be afraid to go back and start all over again. So that's the key here. It's all about that quick reaction. It's all about that collaboration. It's all about that faster feedback, and not afraid to go back and change things as and when you are learning it. So that's the key here for Agile testing. So what are the goals for Agile testing? So I have listed 3 here. Quality equals acceptance criteria plus definition of done. If you are working in an Agile space, I'm hoping that these terminologies make sense to you. It resonates with you. Acceptance criteria is how we know we have met a certain requirement. How are we going to test it? How are we going to accept it? It's specific to a user story or to a requirement. On the other hand, definition of done is a common list of denominator to determine the doneness of the work done by the Agile team. It determines the doneness of all the work done by the Agile team. And this list, it's a list. It's a checklist. It's defined by the Agile team. And the important point here is it should be within the bounds of the organization. It needs to, you need to define your definition of done based on your organizational boundaries. For example, if you're a Microsoft employee, you cannot just go rogue and say you will use only Ruby on Rails. I'm assuming that will probably cross the boundary. The second goal here is the quality is measured by what your customers have to say about your quality. This can be in the form of customer satisfaction survey, number of sales, especially if you're selling a product, your bug count in production, how many complaint calls you are getting, and net promoter score. A very quick way to find out how likely are you to recommend this product or a brand to a friend or a colleague or a peer in the industry. A very popular way to collect quick feedback. So quality is measured by what your customers have to say about the quality. Okay? And last but not the least, which is my pet peeve here in this list, fix defects instead of managing them. It's very tempting to start creating defects and start proving that we have found all these different things. But as a team, come together and start fixing them. Especially when you're talking about at the end of your iteration or your sprint, however you're calling it. If you're expected to produce a high quality product, you don't manage the defects, you fix them. Okay? Avoiding mini waterfall, especially teams who are new to working in the Agile space, especially when you're coming from a traditional background, traditional way of working. It's very easy to get into this pattern. If you're working in a 2-week rhythm, first 2 days we will do analysis. Next 2 days or 3 days we'll do coding. Then last few days we'll do testing, and so on and so forth. Right? So what happens here? If you start working in the sequential pattern inside your sprint, you are going to fall into this trap. The trap is, what if you find something, a big bug or an issue towards the end? When will you have time to fix it? The feedback that you will be giving your development at that time is too late. And at the end of 2 weeks, if you're expected to have something of value, and if you wait for testing to happen until the end, there is a high chance and a risk that you will not be able to produce any value. So, avoid mini waterfall and see how you can start testing in parallel right from the beginning inside your sprint. Next up, I just talked about what is Agile testing and the goals. Without the right mindset, working in this fashion can be very challenging and tricky. And what are some of the things that are going to be different, especially if we are transitioning from a traditional world? Let's talk about that. Collaboration is inevitable in Agile teams. There will be highest level of collaboration between team members. There's going to be a lot of swarming, pairing amongst team members, collectively making decisions. And the collaboration just doesn't stop there. The teams will have the opportunity to collaborate with their end users and customers and the stakeholders. And a great place to have that and do that is when you do a sprint review. where the intention is show your progress and get real-time feedback as and when you're going. Very, very critical. In traditional world, many times it can be thrown over the wall. There's a silo there. There can be an us versus them mentality. Number two, it's not just the test specialists or the testing team or the test managers or the test lead own the quality of the product. In the Agile world, we are changing that. We are giving the ownership to the entire team. The team owns the quality of the product. Producing high quality product is the responsibility of the entire team, and they own the quality. Testers, I used to call myself, when I was playing the role of the tester, I used to say this very loud and proud. My name is Pradeepa, and I'm the quality gatekeeper for this product. Not anymore. That was back in the days. Testers are not the quality gatekeepers in the Agile world. This is big. Planning is always ongoing, and we as testers need to get used to this. It's not a one-time deal at the beginning, or it's not a big document anymore. Requirements are changing constantly. The market is changing constantly. Your customers are changing their mind constantly. Your competition is releasing stuff. That means, as an Agile team, we need to be reactionary. We need to be able to react to the changes. And we need to be able to plan on an ongoing basis. You are doing that, especially when you're working in an Agile team. You are doing a lot of planning on an ongoing basis. For example, you begin your iteration or sprint with sprint planning. And every day when you meet for the 15 minutes, you're actually just-in-time planning for the next 24 hours. And when you're doing refinement meetings, you're actually planning for the near upcoming future. And when you're doing the review with your stakeholders and customers, based on the feedback, you're planning to change directions. So planning is happening continuously compared to a huge upfront planning in traditional world. Constant communication is critical in an Agile team. And I would say upfront and frequent communication over detailed documentation. Especially if you're a test specialist and if you find an issue. Yes, teams may benefit from documentation. Although I would suggest that you get up if they are in the same room with you and talk to the person or talk to your team about what you've just found and give that quick feedback rather than spending a lot of time typing a perfect bug documentation. Of course, you can follow it up with it. I'm not saying you should get rid of this, but have that communication critical. Have that upfront communication is critical. If you wait on it, that faster feedback, the opportunity to give faster feedback is going away every minute that you're waiting. So you need to know and figure out a way how you can get that communication faster to the rest of the team members. So here are different modes of communication. So the most preferred on the top left to the least preferred on the bottom right corner. So it's a spectrum, if you see the arrow. So the least preferred is message in a bottle and the carrier pigeon, right, to video conferencing and most preferred face-to-face communication. There is one more after this, like face-to-face communication in front of the whiteboard, where you're actually drawing and solving and, brainstorming. So wherever you are in the spectrum, as an individual or as a team, figure out a way to move at least one or two levels down towards most preferred. The faster the communication, the quicker the feedback it's going to be. And it's all done because you all are responsible for building a quality product. Requirements are not set in stone. Requirements will change, will be refined and detailed as the team will move along, as the team is moving along. You are going to be constantly learning from the feedback that you are getting from your reviews, from the stakeholders and customer interactions, from the customer service calls. So you are going to be getting those on a regular basis. And that means those will eventually end up in your backlog, in your requirements. And you will start changing them and working on them. So requirements are not set in stone. And this is different compared to how we used to handle requirements in our traditional world. Wanted to quickly talk about this. Cross-functional teams. Agile teams benefit from cross-functional teams and cross-functional team members, meaning a new Agile team typically starts with a lot of I-shaped individual who's represented on the left-hand side. When I say an I-shaped individual, this is an example that I give. The depth of expertise, say for example, if I'm a .NET programmer and I know anything and everything about that, and my expertise runs really, really deep, and that's all I know of, I'm an I-shaped individual. On the other hand, a T-shaped individual is, I'm still a rockstar .NET programmer, but I can also do a little bit of testing and probably a little bit of database work. So that means, I do have some breadth of knowledge too. Oftentimes, Agile teams starts with a lot of I-shaped people, but because of the way that they are working, the collaboration, the swarming, the pairing, and the constant communication, eventually people will pick up one or two other areas. And their expertise will be broader. It may not be deeper, but it will be broader enough to support the team. So a high mature, high performing Agile team will have a lot of T-shaped individuals. We don't measure typical metrics. Typical metrics does not matter anymore. I used to spend literally 4 or 5 hours every Friday when I was test lead back in the days to send beautiful metrics like this, a lot of time. And that was not my favorite part. That was never my favorite part in the week. Why did we used to do that? We used to do that because the development and testing is happening in a black box, and your stakeholders and customers who are supposed to make decisions based on where we are, will use these data to make decisions. Is it a no? It's a go or a no-go kind of decisions. Not anymore. Not valuable. Why? We are involving those people at the end of every iteration, every sprint, and showing the progress. The teams may go on a little bit of a black box, but they come out immediately. The visibility is high and throughout. So some of these typical metrics are not valuable anymore. I'll talk about what are valuable a little bit later. Testers are really, really good at this, keeping an eye on the big picture, even in traditional world. These people would really like to see what's our vision here? Where are we going with this product? They're not tunnel vision. They like to see the big picture. And I love that aspect. And if you're a test specialist in an Agile team, do not lose that quality. Always keep an eye on the big picture. You do need to understand your vision, especially when you're working in sprints and stories. You may lose. Why are we doing what we are doing? But always step back and look at the big picture. That way, if we are deviating from the vision and the goal, you can always ask, like, what's the reason? The work that we are doing where is it fitting in our big picture? And why are we doing this? So keep an eye on the big picture. Testing is done. I'll repeat this again. Testing in an Agile world is not to find bugs. Testing in the Agile world is to give faster feedback. There is a slight nuance there. When I talk about, like, hey, I'm a tester, I found a bug in your code, there is a slight connotation there. Feels like there's a little bit of, haha, I found a bug in your code, kind of that deal. Rather, if you change the same statement as to, hey, I've been testing this area and I wanted to give some feedback. That way, it's more collaborative. There is no finger pointing. There is no us versus them. You are together in this. You are together as a team, working towards building a high quality product. Okay? So testing is done to give you faster feedback. The last on my list, failure is okay, but fail fast and learn from the failure. I'm not sure whether you know this, but the word fail, F-A-I-L, itself is an acronym. And it stands for First Attempt in Learning. Although we have a bad connotation with the word fail, that means something is wrong, something is bad. So don't be afraid to try something new, because only when you try something, you will know how it's going to turn out. If it's good, great. If it's not, now you know what doesn't work. Learn from that and then move on. So don't be afraid to try something new in your teams, and encourage your other team members as well, because FAIL stands for First Attempt in Learning. And learning is crucial and critical for an Agile team. Continuous learning is critical for Agile team. I know many of you are here because you want to learn about Agile testing. How a test specialist can contribute in different events and artifacts, especially when you're working in an Agile team. In the planning meetings, because of your specialty, definitely identify the scenarios that you wanted to test, or at least start having that conversation. And never ever forget the entities, your non-functionals. Many times I have to explain to a bunch of non-testing people what entities means, which is sad. But for you as a test specialist, I don't think I have to explain this. These are your non-functionals. And these are very, very important. Always ask this question. Hey, do we have to worry about performance here? How much load are we talking about? Do we need to be concerned about the security of the application? Always have that in back of your mind and always ask these questions. And don't be afraid to challenge the technical decisions in your from your testing standpoint, especially in planning meetings. If you end up whiteboarding or if you're doing a little bit of design, don't be afraid to ask this question. Hey, I see this. How are we going to test this? Ask that question if you don't know. Because remember when I talked about Agile testing, you should be challenging. You should not be afraid to challenge how the requirements are written or how the design is made or how the code is written. Take that as an opportunity. In refinement meetings, definitely try and understand technical details. It's very important. Even if you don't have an elaborate technical background, have other team members explain it to a way that you can understand. That way, when people are thinking out loud, we will be able to figure out any gaps or any mismatches or any issues. And of course, testing related intricacies needs to be understood and have that conversation. Provide your expertise, provide your input, challenge this. Don't be quiet. Your daily scrum, your daily stand-up, your daily 15 minutes, however you call it, right? This is your opportunity, not your only opportunity, but this is an opportunity for you to bring your testing impediments. And especially if you're an I-shaped testing specialist, this is a great opportunity for you to find this is a great opportunity to find where you can collaborate with other team members. Say, for example, if one of your other team member programming specialists is saying, hey, I'm going to be writing some unit test cases today. I'm going to be doing some TDD, test-driven development. Maybe if that is not the area of your expertise, you can raise your hand. Hey, can I pair up with you when you do that? I want to see how this is done. Collaborate, learn, find opportunities to learn. Okay? Last but not the least, retrospectives. A great place to identify your pain points related to testing and our quality. And the important part here is it's not just about identifying it and complaining about it. It's about doing something, identifying the action items, and what are we going to do about it. And that's the key here. So take these retrospectives seriously, because this is an opportunity to talk about how can we improve quality? How can we improve the quality of the product so that we are delighting our customers constantly? And it's all all of your responsibility. All right, very quickly on artifacts. Definitely, you can assist in helping user stories, writing user stories and acceptance criteria. Bob Galen talks a lot about how a tester can collaborate with product owner. And he recommends this quite a bit. And he will also be speaking at the STPCon in Phoenix. And definitely discuss test scenarios to add clarity and determine testability. Can we test this? How can we test this? This is how we are going to test this, right? And of course, your product itself, the increment that you're producing, the value that you're producing. Together as a team, not just your product owner or not just your programmer, together as a team, that means it includes you as well. Demonstrate your work. Me being a coach or even worked as a Scrum Master, I've always recommended and suggested the test specialist to demonstrate the work. You're part of the team. Be proud of the work that you've done with the intention of getting feedback. That's the critical one there. All right, I'm going to quickly walk through defect management. Agile testing equals defect prevention. So if you look at this graph by Scott Ambler, so if you look at the green lines versus the red lines, it's all about when do you give the feedback. Remember, I was talking about giving faster feedback is critical. So the sooner you give feedback via pair programming, test-driven development, continuous integration, pair testing, with active discussions with your stakeholder, the sooner you find it, it's cheaper to fix it. I don't have to tell you this, right? If it goes into production and when you find it and when it comes back, it's going to be a lot pricier. So Agile testing is equal defect prevention, and try and see how you can prevent it as soon as possible and as much as possible. But we are not robots, we are human beings, and there are going to be bugs. If that is the case, what are we going to do it? Find and fix defects instead of managing them. One of the goals. Write a defect only when fixing it costs more than the value it provides. When some of the other reasons to write defects, if there is a time constraint with bigger effort, or if there is an unknown effort, we don't know how to go about this. If you find an issue, your first response is to talk to the developer. The last response is to log the defect. The goal in each sprint is that you have 0 defects by the end. And make sure you communicate, especially when you're shipping. And if there is an issue, make sure you communicate with your product owner. Do not surprise your product owner. Help them understand the criticality and technicality. And as a team, come together and determine the next steps. Initially, I talked about metrics that matter, right? Sorry, metrics that doesn't matter, right? I'm going to give a very quick overview of some of the metrics that matter. To consider, again, this is not an exhaustive list. And again, remember the picture in the bottom, one size does not fit all. It totally depends upon the team, totally depends upon the program, the organization. There are a lot of factors in there. And again, every metric has a purpose and a defined set of audience. Working software, it's for everybody to gain feedback, and everybody can see this. On the other hand, a sprint burn down or a velocity trend, it's only for the development team, only for your Scrum team to determine either the progress or your throughput. And you don't want it to be showing this to each and everybody. And of course, the release burn down, if you do something like that, it really helps your product owner forecast. When are we going to finish this? And again, that can be shown to your Scrum team, your stakeholders, and your customers. So the point that I wanted to make here is you figure out what makes sense to measure and don't measure it for the wrong reasons. Because if you measure it for the wrong reasons, people will know how to play it. And that's been proven over and over again. So measure for the right reasons and figure out what makes sense for your team and for your organization. Last but not the least, very quickly talk about documentation. This is something people ask me all the time. Do we have to document or should we get rid of documentation? I will always tell them to look at the purple line at the bottom. Do just enough documentation. Don't do documentation for the sake of doing documentation. The Agile Manifesto, one of the value calls for working software over comprehensive documentation. It doesn't say working software, no documentation, right? So you as a team figure out what matters most to you. Do you need to do help documents, deployment documents, technical documents, definition of done, right? Any of the items that are listed in the bottom bullet, you decide what makes sense. And always ask, if somebody is asking you to document something, ask, why do we need to document this? Who is going to use this? And what's the value that we are providing by documenting it? And do just enough documentation. So to conclude, I talked a lot about what is Agile testing, goal, mindset, and other things. I'm going to wrap it up with what is not Agile testing. It's not a separate phase. It's not a separate bug fixing phase. It's not a separate pre-releasing phase. It's not a separate team, automation team or regression team, system team or performance team. When you start having these things, then it's going to hinder your team's ability to produce high quality product. So figure out a way how you can start implementing all these inside your sprint. And that way, together, you can own quality, and together you can provide value and delight your customers. And that's all the slides I have for today.
Hey, thanks. Thanks, Pradeepa. I guess though Agile is mainstream to many, I think many of us are still looking for help to either start getting Agile or be there the right way. So thank you for the talk. And let me take up the questions now.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the first one we have here is from Prasad. He says, in Agile, what is better, Scrum, Sprint, or Kanban?
It totally depends upon. Hi, Prashad. Thank you for your question. So Sprint is, I'll clarify a few things here. So there is some terminology misconception. Sprint is how you divide your, let me say that. Agile is an umbrella term. It's a mindset. It's a set of values and principles. And if you go to agilemanifesto.org, you will see what are the values and principles there. And there are many methods and frameworks inside that will follow those values and principles. Scrum is one of them, and Kanban is the other one. Both of them are pretty popular, although Scrum is more popular than Kanban. Sprints are the time boxes inside the Scrum framework. That means, like a team can choose to work in like a 1 week time box, 2 week time box, 3 week time box, or 4 week time box as a container for risk. And those time boxes are called sprints. And inside a sprint, you will have these different events like sprint planning, your daily scrum, your sprint review, and your sprint retrospective. And the whole sprint itself is a container event. And on the other hand, Kanban is also another method, and it is also a popular method, but it's just a different way of working. You're visualizing the work, you're continuously looking at your flow, you're limiting your work in progress, and at constant intervals you are making adjustments and continuously improving as a team. And the bigger idea of Kanban is, you're not limited inside a time box. Instead, your value is constantly flowing, meaning when you pick up a work, you're doing all the work, you're designing, you're developing, you're testing, and actually you're putting it into production into your customer's hand. So it's that complete flow. And the processes, every Kanban team is very different. How you're going to be flowing from one state to other, that those processes is defined by the team, and it's very well understood by the team and the organization. So that's the difference. It's just a different flavor, but the important part is they both are part of the Agile umbrella. That means they both will abide to the values and principles that are defined in the Agile manifesto. So if you wanted to know more about the manifesto, it's agilemanifesto.org.
Thank you, Pradeepa. So there's another question which is about, which says, what 2-3 steps or changes do you suggest to an organization to take on priority if we want to begin the move from non-agile to an agile practice? It's pretty similar to, on the same lines, there is another one which says how to start right from day one of the sprint, or how do we test in parallel to the development process? So
okay, all right. How do we test in parallel to the development process? So how do you test from day one? So there are a couple of techniques that I have used in the past that I will share with you. One is, on day one of your sprint or your iteration or your time box, you can come together as a team or a subset of the team and start defining the behaviors. You will have some requirement that you have taken on inside the sprint, and come together and define the behaviors for the work in front of you, right? When I say defining behaviors, what that means is, like, come up with what-if scenarios and how the system is going to behave when they are going to be using it. So that conversation, I'm not talking about tooling or automation here. I'm talking about the conversation, the powerful conversation that can happen inside the team that will discuss the behaviors of your user, of your end user of the product, right? That is something that you can do from day one. That itself is defining your tests there, right? And the second one, which I'm very passionate about, is pairing between specialties. I'm a big fan of pair testing. So one of the pair that I always recommend and I really enjoy when I was doing more development and testing is pairing between a programmer and a test specialist. You both can pair up, and one of the areas that I always pair up and enjoy is unit testing. You may or may not be that technically savvy, but when a programmer writes a good unit test, if he or she knows how to write a good unit test, that test name itself, defining the test name itself, is enough to have a conversation. So you can bring your perspective and curiosity as a testing specialist to the conversation, and you can challenge the tests that are written, and you can add more really good quality tests at the unit testing level. That's something that you can do on day one, right? And last but not the least, creating testable task list. What that means is, if you're breaking your work inside your sprint, and if you break it down into smaller pieces, and if you figure out a way, all those smaller pieces which are supposed to be done in a day's worth or less, if you figure out a way to test that as you move along, that is a great, great start. I'm saying that is one of the challenging way to think about your work, and it's not easy. And I pioneered that in my teams, and it really, really works, but it takes a different mindset. It's not going to be what are the development tasks and what are the testing tasks. You don't look at your system like that. What is a task, and how are we going to be developing it and testing it together, right? So you need to be thinking about it in that angle. So that really helps testing from day one.
You mentioned that Agile uses different metrics. Completely agreed with you. If you could only if you could only use one metric with Agile, what would you use? And we are running short on time, Pradeepa, so maybe after this I can only take one more question and we will probably send you the rest of the questions to respond on the blog
Okay.
or something.
Yeah, only metric for me, the important one is the working software, high quality working software, because that's all we are here for as an Agile team. That's our responsibility.
Okay, please, I don't know if you mentioned it, but Iram asks, please explain exploratory charters.
Please explain exploratory charters. So that's a different way of, and I don't know whether I'll have time to go in detail about that. But again, this is a different way of how are you going to explore the application, and the charter is a great guideline as to what is your plan for exploring the application. Elizabeth Hendrickson and a lot of other people in the Agile industry have great documentation about exploratory testing and exploratory charters. I would definitely encourage you to check them out.
We are running out of time, Pradeepa, but I'm so tempted to pick this one because I think most of the people would relate to this. It says, can Agile work when onshore and offshore teams need to do Scrum? It's from Gabby, and I think a lot of us work on offshore and onshore.
Sure. Yes. Yes, it will work. And I have worked with a lot of distributed and dispersed teams, although it's not the same as working in a co-located fashion. There are going to be, of course, we are going to have the challenge of time zones, time differences, not only that, cultural differences, so on and so forth, communication gaps, right? But nowadays in this year, 2017, there are a lot of great tools out there. We have technologically advanced so much, even compared to last 3 or 4 years, where we can make this really work. And again, the key here is how do we want it to work together as a team? And it's not on-site versus offshore. It's us, one team, and defining that, what that means and what our goal is, and having some kind of agreement between, like, this is how we are going to work, there needs to be negotiations, there needs to be compromises. Just because one person is in a different time zone than the other, we need to negotiate and compromise on how well we want it to work together. There are a lot of great ways to go about doing that. But Gabby, if you wanted to reach out to me via LinkedIn, I would be more than happy to share some of the additional tools and perspectives, some of my perspectives to you.
We'll send the rest of the questions to you, Pradeepa, for you to respond, and we'll publish your response on SoftwareTestPro site.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. So thank you so much, Pradeepa, for your time today. It was a very insightful session with lots of practical tips and key understandings on the basics of Agile testing and how to get started with it. I'm sure our attendees would have found it very informative and useful too. So thanks again, and I hope to see you in Washington.
Thank you, Smita.
All right. So well, everyone, this concludes our webinar for today. Thanks everyone for joining, and more importantly, thanks for being so engaging and making the most of the webinar for yourself and for the whole group. Stay tuned for more webinars and online trainings coming soon. And if you haven't yet signed up for the upcoming webinar, which is The Hidden Requirements, Exploring Emotions with PlaceBoss by Damien Sinadinos on 28th of July, then please go ahead and do it. The link is up for registration at SoftwareTestPro.com. So thank you everyone. Have a great week ahead. See you all in Washington.